Good afternoon and good morning. Welcome back to the Charlie Mike webinar series hosted by the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. Today is part 2 of our 17-part webinar series. I'm Earl Morgan, the NVSBC Program Director, and to our new attendees, thank you for joining us today. Again, thank you to our 4 sponsors who made this webinar series possible. Today's webinar is 1 hour and is being recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the NVSBC Charlie Mike replay webpage. If you have any questions after this presentation, please type it in the text box on your screen. If you're not able to answer your question in the allotted time, we'll get the answer to you and post it on the Charlie Mike replay webpage. Now introducing the moderator, the Executive Director of the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, Mr. Scott Jensen. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Earl. Appreciate it as always. Thanks for once again bringing us another installment on our webinar series here with Charlie Mike. It's my pleasure. Welcome everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're at in our great nation. It's a great pleasure for me today to be here, not only with you all, but to be able to introduce a friend of NVSBC and a friend of veteran small businesses and small business owners, Gloria Larkin. Gloria is the president and CEO of TargetGov. TargetGov celebrated its 22nd anniversary in 2019. They focus on government contracting, business development, recruiting, RFP and GSA support and marketing services that include exclusive federal acceleration strategies and tactics, fast process, kickstart program, capability statements, certification services, business development, and expert federal contracting services, marketing, communications, calendar development, and execution. It's important to note that TargetGov's clients have won over $6 billion in federal contracts. Gloria has been quoted in the Washington Post, Inc. magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and just a litany of other published documents. She's also the author of the Basic Guide to Government Contracting, co-author of the Veteran Business Guide, How to Build a Successful Government Contracting Business, and has authored hundreds of federal contracting articles that are both in print and online. Gloria is the Educational Foundation Board Chair Emeritus for WIPP.org and the American Express National Procurement Advisor. She's been recognized by Enterprising Women Magazine's 2010 Enterprising Woman of the Year honoree, Women Impact Public Policy National Education Foundation past chair, and SBA's 2010 Women in Business Champion for Maryland. She has spoken at hundreds of national, federal agency and business conferences, including the Department of Energy, Department of Veteran Affairs, the Social Security Administration, our own Vets Conference, the National Women's Business Owner Corporation National Conference, and the Johns Hopkins University Carey Business School Art of Entrepreneurship Annual Conference. Gloria, we couldn't ask for a better person to be here talking on the topic that you're on. As always, we love your support. We love having you on our team, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you. We'd really look forward to the next hour spending time with you. And I would note, anyone who has questions throughout this conversation, please feel free to put them into the question box and we will get them answered for you. Gloria, the floor is yours. Thanks for being here.
It is my pleasure, Scott. Thanks a million. And please ask questions. This is an important time for you to learn how to take advantage of contracting in a crisis. And the focus that we'll have today, if we go to the agenda screen, that would be fabulous. I've put together over 400 pages of resources for you, all related to contracting in a crisis. This will save you 20 more hours worth of research. So everyone who's attending today or listening to this as a recording will have free access as a result of your being part of the webinar, either live or as a recording. We'll tell you how to get that resource at the end of the session. So today we're going to address what changes are going on, and this is a constant state of being. They're constantly changing. It's not just one change that happened last March, it's all ongoing. Every week there's a new change, which is why we have over 400 documents to share with you, 400 pages of documents to share with you. And agencies will differ how they're handling the contracting in a crisis. All of them, though, want to expedite acquisitions. That's the commonality. If you, as a contractor, understand what that means and how to present yourself in a way that expedites the acquisition process, your chances of winning business skyrocket at this point in time. We will talk about the simplified acquisition threshold and how it has been affected in a very good way for you by the National Emergency Declaration and the tools you'll need to actually use to reach out to these decision makers right now. Next slide. As we work through this, this just gives you a snapshot of some of the resources that we have available in the over 400 pages. It says over 40 documents, but as of this morning, we just added even more. So it's now over 50 different documents, including a number of Excel spreadsheets that you'll be able to access and edit at will. So this is going to really be a helpful series of resources for you as you move ahead in building your business, in supplying the federal government with your services as well as products now. Next slide. So what changed? When the national emergency was declared on March 13th of last year, holy cow, almost a year ago now, a vast number of changes started in the federal government purchase process. Not just the worldwide pandemic, of course, which we've all been living through to this day, but executive memos also impacted the federal procurement process because of this emergency declaration. And I'd like you to know what some of those are right now and the tools that have been stood up so that you can take advantage of this process now. So this not just affects the DoD or just the civilian agencies. Many people think the national emergency only affects PPE equipment, and that's it does affect PPE equipment, but it affects literally every aspect of contracting, whether you are providing products related to COVID or you're providing IT services, cybersecurity, construction, engineering, staffing. All of these services are affected by the changes in the acquisition processes. And today you'll understand how you can take advantage of that. Next slide, please. Continuing the what changed is that the government is mandated a conversation communication with industry partners to hear from industry. That means from you what you can offer the federal government to answer immediate needs as well as ongoing requirements in federal contracting. The websites that are noted on your screen, I'll show you the core website in just a moment, but you'll be able to go to those websites and be able to see what outreach activities are going on related to the national emergency contracting, but also know that your target agencies have pivoted dramatically in the last 3 to 4 months in offering the remote industry outreach events. And I know I personally have attended 2 or 3 a week in the past few months. appears that every agency is now using the remote virtual events in order to reach out to industry for all of their contracting needs. And we have the resource, the Executive Office of the President memo noted at the bottom bullet. So whenever we're quoting a government resource, we will mention the actual source, and that source will be one of the documents that you're receiving in these 400 pages. So you don't have to spend time doing the data research yourself. So what place is the most important to you is on the next slide, please. And that is this one, the acquisition gateway. Now, this website was created pre-COVID at the hallways.cap.gsa.gov, as noted at the bottom of the screen. This website is live and extremely active. And this website serves a number of purposes, but it is also the central clearinghouse for COVID-related acquisition resources, and the acquisition.gov, also known as FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations, hub for legal information as well. So you have both the resources that you as a contractor can use. There are resources there for decision makers, those contracting officers who are looking for your services or the products you're providing also use this as a tool. Now, I will tell you that this is not a place that you can get an account and there's no login and password for you. As contractors, we only have access to read information there. This website is actually designed specifically for the decision makers in the federal government marketplace. They have the logins and passwords, and they use the internal tools like artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about the artificial intelligence data scraping tools and how critical it is, not just now during a national emergency, but all the time, even after hopefully we are able to get through the pandemic and get back to some semblance of normalcy in our business activities. But if you would bookmark that website, we will be referring to it a number of times through today's session. And first, on the next slide, what I'd like to talk about is the thought process that contracting officers are using, their decision tree that they're using on ongoing contracts. And this is important for you to know, because if you already have current contracts that have an end date during this national emergency, this impacts you. And if you are pursuing new opportunities, this will also impact you. So what this is doing is giving the contracting officer a decision tree as to how they will react in this national emergency. Will they be able to operate remotely? Will they be able to have the contractor operate remotely? And I know that, it's now almost a year into this emergency, but I want you to know to plan ahead, because when there are other national emergencies, be they hurricanes, like a weather national emergency, or some sort of other, God forbid, human created catastrophe that we have to be aware of, or a natural disease like we're dealing with right now, this is the same kind of decision tree that your contracting officers will be thinking of. And if you know how to help them through this process and let them know that if you're capable of working remotely, what security you have in place so that you have satisfied remote work security issues, and your team is stable and you have the capacity to continue to do the work or not. And the or not is also important to share with the contracting officer, because that it was a huge issue for many contractors who had staff get sick and not be able to find replacements. And you don't want to have a stop work order or a deficiency noted in your CPARs because of this situation. So it's extremely important that you communicate with your contracting officer about the status. And this will be explained on the next slide, please. So here, this tells you what the contracting officer must go through to assess active contracts and potential for disruption. So if you were smart, you would take these 4 points and the sub bullets under number 4 and get ready for them ahead of time. How can you assure that there is no impact on the contract that you're working on? You can continue business as usual. Or if there is a impact, can you work remotely? Or if they are mission critical or essential contracts and you must perform them on site, what are the next steps you've taken to mitigate any issues? So all of these factors come into play. And I'm sorry to say that even in the news, that I don't know if you heard this, but I heard it over the weekend or last night, days are running together, where a water system for an entire city was impacted by someone who, from a cyber standpoint, was able to access a mouse and therefore added poison to the water system of an entire city that was not too far away from where the Super Bowl was being played. You know, if that happened in the state, any state, or in the city of Washington, D.C., and everyone could not work anywhere where the water system was being distributed, you know, you need to think of these things now. These are maybe not pleasant, of course, not pleasant thoughts, but they're being proactively aware of how you can prepare and be able to continue to work, be able to continue to bring in income, be able to continue to employ your team, all at the same time as pivoting in an unforeseen circumstance that pops up. On the next slide are additional contract updates that you should love. And this mandated accelerated payments to small business primes and subcontractors. So you've often heard that if you're a subcontractor, you're at the mercy of the prime contractors paying you. Well, that is no longer the case. And this memo is also, the entire memo is one of the documents that you'll receive from us today. And this memo states that not only does the government have to pay small business primes within 15 days of receiving an accurate invoice, but prime contractors must also pay subcontractors within the same time frame. And because the primes are also on accelerated payment themselves, whether they're large or small businesses. So this is a huge asset to small businesses. We're all experiencing cash flow issues because of the COVID scenario. And this is a perfect document for you to use reaching out to your primes if by some chance they have not accelerated payment to you. Very, very tactical benefit to you. On the next contracts update page, this is critical if you have current contracts in progress that are planning on expiring. Their expiration date could have been in 2020 or now in early 2021. The original declaration of emergency extended only till December 31st, 2020. That now, I have an update in here, you see it on the screen, that declaration by President Biden after the election has now been extended to March 31st of 2021. So if you have any contracts that are set to expire by March 31st of 2021, the contracting officer has the authority and ability to immediately extend that contract. Period. That makes their life so much easier, but many contracting officers, A, are not aware of this, or B, don't know if you are ready for them to extend your contracts another year after up until March 31st. So take the bull by the horns, become proactive. For all of you who have current contracts in progress, reach out. This isn't a strong action item for you today to plan reaching out to your contracting officer and letting him or her know that you have the capacity to extend your current contract for 12 months under this rule, which is noted up here. The rule is noted in the parentheses there for you. And again, you will get that document as part of the materials that we're giving you today. So by your being proactive and reaching out to your contracting officer and saying, we realize our contract is scheduled to end on February or March, anytime between now and then, and we want to make you aware that we are capable, we have the capacity to extend the contract as per, and relate to the citation we have noted here, until March 31st of 2022, or whenever the contract would end. Please take that time to automatically extend your contract and take advantage of the scenario. And for those of you who are 8A, you've probably already heard that because of COVID, your 8A status is being extended a year. So because this was seen as a potentially lost year for many companies. However, hopefully you were not one of those and you were winning contracts instead, but the 8A status is being extended a year to account for this timeline during the national emergency. And our next update will be from DoD on the next slide. Now, the contracts we've done, updates done so far have been broad, overarching everywhere throughout the entire federal procurement world. Now we're going to start focusing in, and we're going to start with DoD, and then we will go into civilian agencies. So from a DoD standpoint, you know, if anyone's heard me talk before, you know I'm tactical. I'm getting down to tactics that will help you in some way, shape, manner, or form. And the DoD has launched a COVID-19 industry portal specifically for vendors, you, to fill out a short form to provide information on the way that you can support the current responses, but also continued resiliency. So this may take a shift in in your mindset, because many people think of, well, COVID needs PPE. I don't do that. This is not for me. You couldn't be further from the truth. You know, I just mentioned an emergency that was cyber related that affected an entire city's water supply. So continued resiliency can mean any product or service that you're providing the Department of Defense. Please, that would be your second action item, is to mark down this web link. Make sure you are registered. Your company is registered at this particular link. This is a place where you will add your company information to be considered for needs that the Department of Defense has nationwide, even worldwide. So if you're serving in your own state, put your information in here. If you're serving in a region, put your information here. If you're serving CONUS or OCONUS, yes, your information goes in here. This is where the DoD uses this as a short list of contractors who understand that they have need to meet the requirements that the DoD is putting out there. Okay, let's go in and take a look at a little further down at the Navy on the next slide. So, oh, I'm sorry, before I get to the Navy, this is the right slide. Thank you very much, Earl. This is the defense pricing and contracting activity, and they're responsible for all pricing, contracting, and procurement policy matters, including e-business, etc. They have stood up a COVID-19 related function, and the website is noted at the bottom of the page. Action item number 3 for you is to make sure that you go here. And again, note that it says all contingency environments, whether they're military operations, natural disasters, stability operations, maintaining the stability of the Department of Defense, humanitarian aid, as well as any other calamitous events. So broaden your mind from only COVID related support services and products to virtually everything that you provide. Now on the next slide is where we have information related to the Navy. And while you'll get the slides and you'll be able to read the details, I've circled in red what's really the key takeaways here, because Navy was slow in getting started on this whole COVID thing. And if you had any Navy contracts, GWACs, IDIQs, task orders essentially stopped, contracts stopped. It was not pretty. It hurt many contractors for a while. And the way the Navy reacted to this was they acknowledged that they needed to be able to quicken acquisition, speed up contract awards, and address the vulnerabilities inherent in a natural or man-made or worldwide disaster. And so what initially happened when the national emergency was declared, there were weaknesses in the procurement environment. In order for you to address those weaknesses, know the Navy wants you to help them quicken acquisitions. You know the best way to do that? Have the vehicle they already use. So if they're using Seaport for their acquisition of your services and you don't have Seaport, find a partner. If they're using GSA schedules and you don't have GSA schedules, don't try to make them buy it another way. If they're only using that vehicle or those combination of vehicles, you either have to have those vehicles or you find a partner who has them, because that's the only way they're going to perform new acquisitions during this national emergency. And the reason that they want to use existing vehicles is that mitigates risk in bringing new contractors to the table. And I know that that doesn't sound good for you, but it does not close the door if you're not already working with Navy. It just means you want strong partners who can value what you bring to the table. And to give you a shot in the arm of what is actually available out there, let's take a look at the next slide, which is the Missile Defense Agency. And I took a look at their teams network for their small business set-asides. And I know today there's small businesses attending and also some large businesses, but the teams next system within the MDMA is specific to small business, but look at the size of these contracts that are available. And I checked this right before I sent the PowerPoint into Earl. So this is accurate and available. They have, and I'm going to go down to, let's see, the one at the top of the second column, right under the professional services portfolio, program planning and acquisition. That's a SDVOSB set aside. Look at that, it's 345 people, translating that to dollars, over $30 million contract. That includes all of the services that are noted. Below that is a facilities, logistic, and environmental opportunity, 190. So these are not chump change contracts, my friends. These are massive opportunities available through the TeamsNet Small Business Network for the MDMA. And it's up to you to, this is not a well-known agency. Not everyone would even have an idea about this. So I want you to be aware of, in your targeting, your agencies, whether they're Department of Defense or they're civilian agencies, I would suggest you look at your backyard. That is one of the best places for you to become extremely aggressive in pursuing opportunities now during the national emergency. And if this agency happens to be in your backyard, then you have a little bit of an advantage over someone that's located across country, simply because people like doing business with people who are nearby. It's just a human condition. But you can always team with another company that may be in their backyard if you are interested in pursuing any of these opportunities within their TeamsNet Small Business Set-Aside program. Okay, so we've whetted your appetite. We've gone from all over the procurement world into DoD. Now let's take a look at FEMA. And take a slice out of Department of Homeland Security. You know, the Defense Production Act, the second bullet, has gotten a lot of press through this whole coronavirus issue. And with new administration in place, it got more press. And one of the documents that we have as part of our deliverable to you just was delivered to the new administration, demanding that the Defense Production Act be used for small businesses as well. So not just the Lockheed Martin and the major large primes out there will be tapped, but there is a process in place to demand from Congress that the White House also include small businesses located throughout the United States in this Defense Production Act process. And this would be a huge asset, not just for what's happening right now with vaccine distribution, but in any future national emergency, the Defense Production Act. If you, as a small business, know how to reach out to your targets and say, we are available under the Defense Production Act to perform the following services or provide the following products for you, you will be positioned very nicely. You know, and there's always the caution, and you probably know where I'm going with this. Don't mislead. You know, there's stories all over the news about the man who won a $34 million contract to provide PPE equipment when he had no possibility, never provided any of the equipment. He's now under investigation, more than likely will be in stripes or orange and sometime in the near future. So always make sure that you're leveraging what you can prove you can do. I know that I personally fielded calls from hundreds of people saying, oh, we can get PPE. And they're all saying they're getting it from China from the same source. And so I had to decline every single one of them, because that's not a way to do business with the US federal government. You need to be able to prove you can do what you say you can do. And FEMA has a page linked specifically to you, the private sector, where you, as an interested vendor, can respond to the standing RFQ if you can provide PPE equipment and other services and products that FEMA would need. So right now, yes, it's a COVID response, but hopefully in the future, you'll be able to be quickly responding to any other emergency needs that would be coordinated through FEMA through a similar process. So get ready for it. Use it if you can provide any of these services or products that FEMA is asking for right now. Now let's segue into the health and human services, the civilian agencies. You know, they're a natural fit because this crisis is a health-related crisis. And the web link that you see up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, please jot this down because this is not easily findable. This is where you would go to register your company with the entire Health and Human Services agencies, sub-agencies, departments, and offices under them. This is very normal now. You know, you're seeing where agencies are creating their own internal databases in addition to your SAM registration and your SBA profile. There's now these very specific registrations. I call them their favorite children. If you're registered in these internal databases for the DoD, for FEMA, for Health and Human Services, then they know to come directly to you for the services or products that you provide. So action item number 5 or 6 by now would be to make sure you write down this website if you want to start providing services for the Department of Health and Human Services. And to help you do that, all of these PDFs that you see here, we have gathered for you as part of that 400-page handout. Remember, I want to save you time and research. So we've already done all of the research on the spending trends for each one of these sub-agencies under the Health and Human Services umbrella. So each one of these has extraordinary opportunities normally for small business, but also now that we're in a national emergency, and this is all about contracting in a crisis, where do you fit? Which agency do you have a natural fit in? Within CMS, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, FDA, the health, National Institutes of Health. You know, you can't go after all of them. And I think that's the biggest challenge for most businesses, not just small, but large businesses as well. Because when you look at Health and Human Services as its own entity, it has a budget larger than most countries, just Health and Human Services. So you cannot go after every single one of these agencies and all of the sub-agencies. It would be important. I would give you a rule of thumb right now to target 2 main targets that you're going after. You can't go and say, oh, I'm going after DOD and HHS. That's about 150 different entities and activities. So you will want to pull them down based on who has the best fit for the needs that you provide, ideally in the geography that you're providing services as well. So now I'd like to get into more tactics. I promised to talk about the simplified acquisition thresholds. And something has changed pretty dramatically because we're in a national emergency. Normally, the first group of information is all about the micro purchase. These are credit card related purchases. Normally, anything under $10,000 can be purchased through the government procurement card. However, because of this regulation, and the citations are noted here, and we also have the document available for you, procurement can now use the purchase card up to $20,000 per transaction inside of the United States. And outside of the United States, OCONUS, it's even higher. It's $30,000 through the micro purchase using the procurement card. And the simplified acquisition threshold itself, the top end, is normally $250,000. But that now is raised to $750,000. $750,000 is now the top end limit of the simplified acquisition threshold. So that means anything from $20,000 to $750,000 should be awarded to small business. This is a huge boon to small businesses that know this. But you need to be able to proactively market to your targets the services or the products that fit under these thresholds. It's your job to create a menu of what can you do under $750,000, under $250,000, under $25,000, and then under the micro purchase thresholds of $20,000. And I know that this is a new thought for you right now, but we've seen companies be extremely successful. And I'll talk about that tool in just a few slides, exactly how to take advantage of this simplified acquisition threshold. So let's get into the first overall tool that you need to use right now. Remember, tactics, tactics, tactics. The first one, change your registration on SAM in the disaster response registry. Most companies that we see, I'd say 75%, do not have disaster response checked yes. You normally think, oh, that means blue tarps. I don't sell blue tarps, so I'm going to say no. Well, we have a whole new type of disaster on our hands. So no matter what kinds of products or services you're providing, my recommendation to you is to check yes under do you provide disaster related services or products? And you do this directly in your SAM registration. Log in, go to that question, check yes. It will then ask you what geographic area you serve. And you can click any state, but I would suggest you not do that. Because remember, when 9/11 happened, unfortunately, no planes were flying. When COVID happened, travel cut down. So I know you may be able to ship things anywhere, but what happened during the holidays? Shipping was terrible. So instead, list the 3 states that are closest to you. And that way you can get in a car and drive or deliver whatever it is that needs to be on site, whether that's people, products, or materials for the targets. If in the future you want to adjust that to any particular state outside of the 3 states, you can do that at any time. So this is for all government contracts. This is your SAM registration, sam.gov. It costs you nothing to do this. Don't pay anybody any money to do this. If somebody wants to charge you money, you're at the wrong spot. Okay, and then the next tool is what I mentioned earlier. This is that acquisition gateway. And what you should use to be found by the acquisition gateway that we talked about way back. Let me take a look at what slide that was, slide 8. This is where keywords and phrases are very important for them to be able to find you. So, for instance, if you provide construction services, don't just say, we're a general contractor. What kinds of construction are you a general contractor for? Can you help them stand up remote vaccination facilities? Can you help the current government offices become COVID resistant by modifying their cubicle farms that they have inside for offices? What is it? What kinds of construction do you do? If you're providing IT services, don't put in a keyword that says information technology. That means nothing. Exactly what kinds of information technology services do you provide? Exactly what kind of cybersecurity services? Exactly what kind of staffing services? Use the same keywords and phrases that your targets are using, and you can find them simply in the statements of work. I know I'm throwing a lot at you today, but you'll have access to the recording of this session. So you can come back at any time and access the recording to review what it is we've gone over. And of course, you can always reach out to us here at TargetGov. No cost. Would be happy to answer any question you have about any of the information that I'm sharing with you today. It's our way of helping support you in this endeavor. Okay, the last set of tools. This is our last slide before we get into any questions. First of all, know your target's mission. I can't tell you how many contractors skip over the mission of your target. It's critical that you know it and you state it in your capability statement, which is the next tool. Remember now, it's almost always one side of a CAPE statement. That's the way the government wanted you to present yourself. Get everything summarized onto one side of one piece of paper. Now, because of the emergency, we want you on the flip side to add a menu with your simplified acquisition threshold services or products, a menu under each bullet of price. What can you do under those different prices? Remember, they want you to have their contract vehicle. If it's the VA and you're a veteran or service disabled veteran owned company, you have a sole source ability. But if it's other vehicles like a GSA schedule, Navy Seaport E, or any of the other vehicles, if you don't have it, you can find a teaming partner that does. Create a pipeline of these opportunities. They're ongoing. They're constantly coming up. New needs are constantly coming up, which you can find in the forecast for your targets. Also, the relationships. You know, you don't want to just contact one person one time and say, hey, I'm here, I can do all of this for you, and they don't buy from you and you disappear and you never talk to them again. Instead, you want to put them in a CRM system, a customer relationship management system, and contact them regularly, once a month at the very least. Touch them once a month with information about the services, the products that you provide. That CRM system could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet to start. But as you start winning, you get into millions and millions of dollars worth of contracts. An official type of CRM system could be very helpful for you. We actually have an article, the top 40 CRM systems used today. And if you'd like that, shoot me some information, shoot me your information. As a matter of fact, this is how you get the handouts. On the next slide, handouts. And if you want that top 40 article as well, please send an email. Please write this email down: questions@targetgov.com. Mention the NVSBC Charlie Mike session. Put that right in the subject line, because we're not giving this resource out to everybody. This is only for the attendees, live or as a recording of the Charlie Mike sessions. So make sure you mention that. We will give you the link. At 400-page document, it's over 77 megabytes big. We cannot email it to you. So we have a download link that we will provide for you, that you'll gain access to all of these 400 plus 400 pages worth of documents. Okay, I'll take a breath for a minute. Scott, do you have any questions for me to address?
Gloria, I'm popping back up here. Yeah, we do. We have a couple of questions. Thank you so much first. Just tons and tons of information. And, you know, everybody who's watching, if you don't take advantage of what was just offered to you in that previous slide, you're missing the opportunity. So please reach out and contact Gloria at the team there, and get access to these references. Hey, Gloria, could you go over one again? What is the first step someone should take and getting started on getting contracts related specifically to the COVID crisis?
So the very first thing is go into your SAM registration and click that button that says, do you want to participate in the disaster response registry? If you simply click that yes, it will take you 20 seconds to do, will not cost you a dime. That will give the basic searchability for them to find you based on your NAICS codes and whatever keywords or PSC codes you have in your SAM and your SBA registration. That is a perfect first start.
Thank you. Someone else asked, I'm doing business in DoD right now. How do I transition to providing the same services in other civilian agencies?
You know, that's not as difficult as you think. And first off, I would suggest doing a little research to determine which agencies are the top buyers in your backyard. And I bring that up because people like doing business with people who are nearby. I know it's COVID. I know everybody's doing video things, so it really doesn't matter what part of the country we're in, we think. But remember now, COVID, what happens if you can't get on a plane to provide the services or products that you're promising, but you can get in a car and drive there and meet with them, even if we are still all wearing our masks? This is why it's important to focus right in your backyard first, if nothing practical about getting business for you. And once you have that target identified, and you can do this for free through usaspending.gov, you can put in your state, you can put in your NAICS codes and find out what agencies are spending right there. In less than 30 seconds, you'll have that answer. And then you start reaching out to them. Look for the civilian agencies, look for their offices, their small businesses, their small business office, and start contacting them first. That would be the route I would take to opening up the door in civilian agencies as soon as possible.
Great. We're seeing a week-to-week theme here with usaspending.gov as being a real highlighted source for good information for folks who are going after business right now. So again, another reference there that once you start hearing repetition becomes particularly important. So Gloria, we really appreciate your time. You're very busy and you're very gracious with what you offer to us and to our members, and in giving of your time and resources. Thank you so much for being with us. You have just been spectacular today, as always. We look forward to the next opportunity, and we'll hope to see you out at the Vets Conference in November down in Orlando, and certainly we'll engage more before then, I'm sure too. So thank you so much for everyone on the line. It's been a pleasure today, and we wish you all a great rest of the day and a great afternoon. And thanks again, Gloria, for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you. See you soon.
See you now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.